Have you ever had a conversation with somebody and like hours later, like you're still thinking about it? Like you're replaying like what they said, how they said it. And it's like sometimes you even replay like what you wish maybe like you would have said back. Like you didn't get all the words that you wanted to say out. And so it's like you're wishing I would have said this or I wish I would have said that. And then it's like, then you start replaying it like in your head, what you would have said. And your mind keeps like going back to the moment, like going back. And it's like over and over and over again. And then the more you replay it, the more the situation begins to grow in your mind. And then next thing you know, it might like even start to feel like more personal. And then it starts to resonate even more. Now it's starting to feel disrespectful. Or even like maybe it starts to feel more even intentional, like more than it really was. Have you found yourself in a spot like that before? Because then it's like before you even realize it, now you're like emotionally reacting to a situation that happened. It could have been hours ago or even days ago, but you still stuck and you're still like processing it. But psychologists, what they call that is rumination. So hang with me, sis. Let me explain what that is. It's like, so rumination happens like when the mind like repeatedly like replays negative events or conversations. And what happens is like studies actually show that when people ruminate over situation, what happens is it actually increases your stress because you're marinating on it, is what I call it, marinating. Like you're just constantly thinking about it, constantly, constantly, constantly. So now what happens is it blows up and it increases your stress because now you're even more ticked off about it than you were when it actually happened. And so with that increased stress, now that can bring on anxiety and emotional reactivity. Because now I done sat here and thought about every single thing that I thought you said or how you said it, and now I didn't like it. So guess what? I'm about to pop off and I'm about to respond. So that's what ends up happening. So in other words, it's like the more the mind replays the moment, the more intense it becomes because you keep thinking about it. So it makes it more and more and more intense. hmm Um, but there's something I do want you to understand because, like, just because the thought keeps coming back, it doesn't mean that it actually deserves your attention. So remember, we're focused on healing and trying to move past some of this stuff. So just because you keep having the thoughts, it doesn't mean that you have to keep acting on it and let it like just resonate over and over and over. And sometimes the mind like replays things because sometimes something inside of us like it was triggered, and so because you're triggered, now your mind is starting to replay things and prepare or drum up other stuff about it. Yep. And then like sometimes you're triggered because maybe it even touched a past experience or something, and so that may have been what triggered it or triggered you. Like, for example, maybe it touched a place like where you were hurt before that you tried to close off and you didn't want to think about, but because this particular thing triggered you, it triggered that part of the hurt that you had closed off. And then the mind begins trying to like to make sense of like of the situation all over again. But the problem is that it's like when we keep replaying a moment like without clarity, Like our mind can begin filling in the details that may not even actually be true. For example, you could have a situation like, say, you and somebody haven't talked in years, and I mean years or months or whatever, but we'll use extreme, like a long period, like let's say years, and something can trigger you, like you, like to date, if nothing happened to trigger you, you know that you're not talking to this person for years. You know that they hurt you, but maybe all the details you kind of locked it away and closed it off. But then if something happens and somebody triggers that part, it opens it back up, like that, it opens that wound back up. Now you remember everything that happened or you think that happened, and now you're going to add pieces that maybe wasn't even there because it's already been so long. And so now you're going off of memory, and then you're going to add those pieces in based on also what just happened to trigger it, if that makes sense. I'm trying to explain it so I can give you like a logical, real life like situation that could have possibly happened, so that you could say, oh, oh wow, okay, okay, I see where you're going with this. But yeah, it can trigger it. And so when we keep replaying the moment like without clarity, like I said, our mind begins like filling in those details, but they may not actually be true. And then sometimes we could assume intentions, we could assume motives. Like for example, if somebody hurt you before and they were like they were dishonest all the time, and then whatever happened, like that was the end of the rope for you, like that was it, you were done. You said, if you said something one more time that wasn't true, now later on if it happens again or something triggers it and it happens again, let's say that person before, they were dishonest, they were being sneaky, they were doing sneaky things, whatever those sneaky things were. Now in right now, what's happening, you attribute that to what happened before, and then now you think this person is being sneaky or this situation is being sneaky and they are out doing what this person did. Now you make up a whole story, oh they probably went here, and then it's been 2 hours, so now you done ran over here just like the other person did, and I know you did this and that, and you know you didn't call this person up, you didn't snuck over here, or you was dishonest, you was sneaking and you were like doing stuff against me. You see how it works? It kind of, now you done made up a whole scenario that may not even happen. The person could have had a flat. They could have had something detrimental. They could have had a family member that needed them real quick and they didn't have time to respond, or you know, or they were late. They could be, like I said, stuck in traffic. Anything. They could have been in a car accident or something, and here you are reminiscing back on what they probably did based off of the other situation, and then in reality, it may not have even happened. And so you created a whole story of something that may not actually even happen. And so that's that rumination and stuff like that. That's how that works. And then, like I said, suddenly we're reacting to the story in our head instead of just the actual moment. Like you already got a whole thing played out of what happened in your head. But then, like, let's say the person came home or they called you or whatever the case may be, and then they told you, oh my God, this happened and I was in a bad car accident, or I had to go help somebody. A family member called, they had an emergency, they had to run to the hospital. So now that kind of shows you that, oh dang, that didn't happen. Like I made this whole thing up in my head. I was so triggered that I automatically jumped to conclusions. So that's how that can kind of happen. And that's why slowing down is super important before we make decisions, just jump to conclusions. So, like James 1 and 19 reminds us to be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. hmm Because sometimes the best thing we can do is just pause and pay attention. Pause and give somebody the benefit of the doubt until they show you differently. Yep. And sometimes like you can get so worked up behind this stuff where you just need to pause, take a breath, and say, you know what, I'm gonna wait and see. I'm gonna wait and see before I jump to conclusions. I know I'm mad, but I'm gonna wait and see what's gonna happen. Or did this really happen? We also need to like give ourselves time to process things before we just pop off emotionally. Because sometimes when we go off emotion, it looks totally different than what we would do if we were in like more of a calm mindset. Yep. Because not every thought that enters our mind deserves to be there. Because we can have thoughts. I mean, we have thoughts all throughout the day, but not every thought deserves to actually be there. And not every moment deserves to be replayed over and over again either. So sometimes it's like pain over and over and over. If you keep replaying what hurt you, you're gonna have pain over and over and over. It's like you relive it and relive it and relive it. So not every moment deserves to be replayed over and over again. And basically what happens is you can have, what helps you to break the cycle is awareness, being aware that, okay, I'm thinking about this too much. Okay, maybe I'm going all off and this is not even a scenario. So once you realize, like, when your mind is like starting to replay something over and over and over, you gain the power to actually interrupt the pattern. Because like if you say your mind is going, okay, okay, now you 2 hours later, they probably did this or that. Well, you could say, wait a minute, wait, no, I'm not gonna think the worst. I'm gonna wait, I'm gonna pause, and I'm gonna see, what the outcome is gonna be before I automatically make that determination that this is happening. And that's where your peace begins, because now you're not just spiraling and sitting here and coming up with all these scenarios that may or may not have even happened, spinning it over and over and over, and then triggering yourself back into past hurts instead of pausing, breathing, reflecting, and just being patient, being slow to speak, and quick to listen. Okay. So, if this message helped you, I hope this was very helpful for you. And if it did, please like and subscribe. And as always, I'm wishing you peace, love, joy, and happiness. I hope this was helpful, sis. Have a great day.